this evening's awards. If you have not finished your dinner and your dessert, please continue to enjoy that as we get started. We'll be starting our program by celebrating our 2020 award winners this evening. And as we begin our recognition of tonight's Golden Awards honorees, I would ask Kelsey Aller to come forward to introduce our evening's first Golden Awards recipient.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to be presenting Chuck Barney tonight. Originally from Western New York, Chuck grew up near the shores of Lake Ontario and graduated from Brockmore High School. In 1979, he graduated from the Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. He earned a Master of Science in Instructional Systems Technology from Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. It was while attending IU that he met his wife, Leslie Metz, a music student from Minot. They were married 2 years later. In 1991, they moved to Minot with their 2 children to be closer to family. The couple has been involved in several business ventures since then. In 2012, Chuck joined the MSU College of Business as director of the Severson Entrepreneurship Academy. He has served as president of the Minot Convention and Visitors Bureau, treasurer of the Minot Area Chamber of Commerce, board member of the Minot Area Development Corporation, assistant scoutmaster of Boy Scout Troop 416, and district chairman of the Northern Lights Council of the Boy Scouts of America. Chuck also served 3 terms as 4th Ward Alderman, 2 terms as City Council President, and 7 years as Finance Committee Chairman. In June 2014, he was elected mayor of Minot and completed his term in June of 2018. I'm also lucky enough to call him my dad.
Turned out all right, didn't she? Must be her mother's influence. Well, I'm grateful that Kelsey stepped in. Dean Francois was going to be introducing me, and I was really dreading that. If you know Dean at all, you know that I would be a target throughout his presentation. But he isn't feeling well tonight, so we're hoping he's back to his obnoxious self fairly soon, and we'll see him around town again. At my table, I'd like to introduce my wife, Leslie. She's no longer a Met, so you met Kelsey and her husband, Zach. And my mother-in-law, Ione Metz, is joining us. We also have Star Nelson and our dear friend, Schultz, but they're not part of my group. They just passed the party without being invited. But we'll let them stay anyway. They promised to pick up the check. Also, part of my family I want to introduce, they couldn't be here, is my son Chris, who lives in California, and he has a little girl, Mila, and we're leaving on Monday to go out and see them and spend a month, or maybe it only seemed like a month, but we're going to be out there a long time visiting them. I want to thank the Alumni Association for this honor. Dean would say no one is sure why I'm being honored, but I am grateful for the honor nonetheless. I guess it probably has something to do with the positions I've been in where I've been able to influence either policy or influence decisions that were beneficial to Minot State. I'm grateful to do that. Whether when I was on the city council or in other areas in the community, I always recognized the benefit that Minot State brings to our city, our community, and our region. Those benefits include an educated and trained workforce with North Dakota values and honesty, hard work, and dedication. Those are tangible assets when you're trying to market a community to big businesses that are thinking about coming to Minot. Also, Minot State offers culture and arts that rival communities many times our size, including but not exclusive, the Western Plains Opera Company, the Minot Symphony, the Northwest Art Gallery, jazz festivals, and of course summer theater. The other thing that Minot State brings is cultural diversity, something that Minot, when I moved here, didn't really have. And that cultural diversity comes from some of the athletic programs, the students that come to our community from other parts of the country and world, and they get to meet us, they get to see what North Dakota's about, we get to learn about their communities and where they grew up and everything they have to offer. That's also really evident when you meet some of our international students. I've been fortunate that when I worked at Minot State, I got to spend a lot of time with international students, and I loved it. They're so proud of their country, and they like to share their stories and tell you all about it, and I really enjoyed that. And the students from North Dakota benefited from hearing all the things they went through. I want to talk about education. What does Minot State bring to our students? Minot State brings affordable, valuable education to the students that choose to come here. That education offers opportunity. I can tell you personally that education changed my life in a dramatic way. Kelsey listed the schools I went to, and each and every one of them pushed me further to the goals that I wanted when I was in school. The city of Minot believes in the value of Minot State through their support of the Ann Nicole Nelson Auditorium, the floor in the dome, the press box at Herb Parker Stadium, the turf at the football field, and of course the bubble. All of you, through your support of the university, help provide the students with a first-class institution. I had the pleasure of working with Clint Severson and Connie Ahart during my nearly 10 years as director of the Severson Entrepreneurship Academy. They provided millions of dollars in opportunities for our students, like internships at Abaxis in California. The other thing that they did is they also opened their home and provided what they used to affectionately call Pasta Fridays, where the students from North Dakota would go to their home and spend the evening eating and talking, oftentimes meeting titans of industry that were friends of Clint's. Those opportunities are from people like you. And if you have the opportunity to share your experience and to share what you have, I strongly encourage you to do it. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to please welcome Ashley DeShaw to the podium to introduce our next Golden Awards recipient for the evening.
Good evening, everyone. So great to see so many familiar faces I haven't seen in quite some time. So, of course, I'm here to introduce, I have the privilege to introduce my brother this evening. And of course, he doesn't tell me anything. I have no idea how many, supposedly there's minutes I get, or there's, but I think the Anderson sisters got all 4 of my minutes, it sounds like. Discussing a few things before we started this evening. They have a little bit more than I do, so I'm going to keep this short and simple. I don't think this is a man that we really need to introduce a whole heck of a lot of anything beyond the fact that he's an amazing man, right? It's funny, a lot of times people ask me the funniest questions. They ask me, I mean, you wouldn't even imagine some of the questions I get asked, and it's very entertaining, but typically it's, how is your brother doing? Well, it's really simple to answer, right? He's doing phenomenal. He's one of the best humans I know. He is incredibly humble and kind, courteous, and just a sweet, sweet man. I can't look at you or I'll cry. I need my midlife, pre-menopausal, no crying medication or something, I'm not sure. Anyway, he's become one of the most amazing, in my opinion, my humble, maybe not so humble, biased opinion, one of the best directors, actors, screenwriters. He's done it all, really, and has really is so well respected in this industry, and I'm so incredibly proud of him. But more than that, more than what he's accomplished professionally, he is just honestly one of the most
beautiful people I know. He's my best friend. He's my brother. He's my family. And now you have to come up here. I would like to introduce you to Joshua, David, Michael Lebeau, and Olson.
Wow. That is my sister. Bandy. I love you so much, babe. I couldn't ask for a better sister. She's been on my side since we were kids. There's nobody that has my back more than that one right there. Ashley. Yeah, I can't even believe some of the things that I put her. I can't believe she likes me as much as she does. I put that girl through so much. Growing up, I mean, I'm not even going to begin to tell you. Mom and Dad, I couldn't ask for better parents, not because they coddled me, they were giving me everything I needed, but because they pushed me, they supported me the best they knew how. They made me an independent thinker, and their expectations were very high, too high, actually. A lot of therapy, but I'm good. But most importantly, they led by example. This is important. They led by example. They probably didn't even know that I was watching as closely as I was, but I was, and I was watching the way they treated others. And I think it's helped me. That's probably helped me the most along the way. My mother was tough, very tough, but thank God for that. She gave me the drive, the discipline, the backbone that I have today because I watched that woman sacrifice everything for us. And I love you, Mom. God damn it. This is supposed to be fun. Seriously, my mother is unbelievable. The example that we set is something that I'm very aware of, and it's something that I now, I think about as I raise my own son. That baby boy, he's watching me. So I gotta be like they were. Treat everyone with respect, show up for people, no matter what their status or socioeconomic circles they run in. You treat everybody the same. And I've always carried that with me along the way. And no matter where I am or what project I'm working on, I don't see myself as anything special. I just see myself as that kid from North Dakota who had to grind, and to prove myself over and over. Oh, God. Keep it together, dude. I feel like I'm still doing that, and it's the respect that I have for others, my understanding of their struggle that keeps me connected and grounded, because we all struggle. None of us have this figured out, except maybe Cheddar. Cheddar over there has got it all figured out. Just ask him. He's so mad at me, by the way. I forgot to tell him about this until yesterday. Full-on scolding this morning at breakfast. But if you have a dream and you're specific about what it is that you want, if you're willing to stay humble and accept that you're going to fall flat on your face several times over and over and over, and you can't help but to succeed if you just keep getting up, dusting yourself off, getting back in the saddle, and just keep showing up. Like my manager says, just keep showing up. And that's what I do. I just kept showing up until I had to say yes. And it doesn't sound very inspirational, but that's what I do. I just keep showing up. Just staying very specific, keeping that goal in mind. It's just been something I've been very lucky. I've had, my dad has said several things to me over the years that have served me well. He's not here tonight. He's got some buddies in town for the weekend. He's like, sorry, that sounds really boring. Yeah, that's a true story. Thanks, Dad. But he did. He said a lot of things to me over the years that really sort of served me well. God, I wish he was here. Dad, will you please? Oh wait, he's not here. He's like, and one of them was, Ramstead Junior High. I had just started 7th grade at Ramstead. I wasn't doing well in school. My grades weren't so good. He looks at me and gets down on my lap and goes, "Kid, you got to get better grades. Nobody likes a dummy." I'm like, okay. Well, then I would cry after a hockey game after we lost, because I was a very emotional kid, as you can probably tell. He said, "Kid, you got to quit crying. Nobody likes a crybaby." True story. That's my dad. And it worked, You're probably going to use a little more graceful way of saying, but that's the way he was. But he also said a lot of things to me that I think really have served me well. And it's things that I'm trying to teach my own kid now. I got this property up in Minnesota that I love to go to. It's like my favorite place just to chill and just let go. And I remember when we first got this property, the only thing that I had was this dock. It was like a floating dock. It's the only thing I had. I didn't have a boat. I just had a dock. I didn't have a cabin or anything. And it was right after the ice came off in the spring, and I wanted to get in the water because I just wanted to get up. This is my property. I want to get up. And I put my toe in the water. It was freezing. And I was like, "Oh God!" I was like, "Maybe we'll wait a couple months." I was like, "No, come on, kid, be a brave soul." I was like, "Be a brave soul." That's so simple, but it's so good, and it's something that I've tried to listen to. And he doesn't even realize he's saying this stuff. He especially doesn't realize it now because he's not here. But he's said a lot of things to me over the years that have really served me well. And I'll end this quickly, but I was born in Minot. I grew up in Minot. Campus laboratory school. Mrs. Starr, I just saw her. She was my music teacher. Will you please stand up? Campus laboratory school, it used to be, they don't do it anymore, but it used to be like the teachers' college where student teachers would come over and they would teach us kids, and we'd have teachers practice the new curriculum. And I still remember, I saw her, I was like, "Mrs. Starr." And I started singing, "Eddie, could you catch a can be tossing there, tossing up, it's anything like the ground. Going to the well, going to the well, going to the deep dark." Anyway. I remember this stuff from way back, I'm talking like kindergarten. Campus laboratory school, Ramstead Junior High, a block away at the time, now it's north. Minot High, Coach Feld. Minot State University, go Beavers. I mean, I spent most of the first half of my life within a block of this place, so that's really in my blood. And then after my illustrious career as a quarterback, I decided after all this time, it was time for me to go. No, seriously, everyone said, "Dude, you've been here long enough." No. I left, and I said to myself, "I'm getting out of here. I am so out of here. I can't wait to get out of here. This place is so boring. I'm going to California where all the cool people are." Well, I learned my lesson, and I tell you what, I can't get back here often enough. I really can't. I spend most of my time back here now. I left here as this kid who thought he was going to go out and do whatever, but the truth is, this is my home. I still have the same friends that I've had forever. A lot of them are here tonight. Chet Kelly, Chad Schmidt, Greg Cheddar, so many other people that I've known over the years. My same idiotic friends since we were kids. Chad Schmidt I've known since campus laboratory school. We all still hang out together. I made a movie about these dudes. Funny games. Out now on Hulu if you want. It's a very family-friendly movie. Anyway, steady. These guys are steady. These guys are my family. I can't tell you how proud I am to be a North Dakota native. It's truly the backbone of who I am. And if I've had any success at all, it's because of what I grew up around. There's no quitting the people of North Dakota. There's a humbleness, there's a humility that you just don't see a lot out there in the world, especially now. There's no unwavering understanding of who we are, nothing fancy, no bullshit, just a quiet confidence. You need help, I got you. Don't expect anything in return. I love that about the people here. So, I just want to truly say thank you to United State University for armoring me up, for getting me ready to go out into the real world. These friendships, the relationships that I have lasted a lifetime, and they've given me a world-class education. I mean, Dr. Rodewald's organic chemistry class was so great that I got to take it twice. I want to thank Rick Hedberg. I want to thank Mr. President over here. Thank you so much for having me tonight. This is truly an honor. And I want to say thank you to everybody who came with me tonight. I want to say thank you to my girl right over there, Audra, Mari, my favorite little person in the world. All right, you guys take care. God bless.
My favorite thing about Golden Awards night is a room full of Beaver family and friends, guaranteed to have big, big laughs, and then those sweet, sweet tears. I mean, check, check, we're there already, congratulations. Next up, I'd like to welcome Jackie Velk to the podium to introduce our next Golden Awards recipient for the evening.
All I can say is, who wants to follow that? I mean, really, come on, man. I was stressed out enough, but it's great. I just want to, first of all, thank Terry for honoring me with having me introduce you tonight. It's a great honor, and I appreciate it. And I have to say, Clifford and Marion, you done good. I mean, your whole family's here, and I think it's wonderful. And I know Clifford, when Terry was growing up in Halliday, Clifford kind of wanted to get her off the ranch quick because I think there was a lot of cowboys hanging out over there. So she made her way to Minot State, settled in real quick, immediately became friends with the dean of students, Garnet Cox, because she was caught in the men's dorm hiding in the closet. So she settled in very, very well at that time. And I got to know Terry, I don't know exactly when it was, but we became instant friends. I mean, it was destined to be. And she first of all said to me one day, we were out on a Saturday night, and she said, why don't you come up to my condo tomorrow, and I've got a roast in the freezer. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing with a roast in the freezer? I mean, my mom has roast in the freezer. This is Terry, you know. And just to see how different we are, when I first met Steve, he came to my house courting me with flowers and vegetables yeah. And he went to put them in my refrigerator and he said, maybe you should unplug this thing and store your sweaters in here. So and I thought, oh my God, we have a humorous banker. That's good. So anyway, so Terry, at that time, she was still just the same. We had a lot of fun together, and my sisters and my brother and I recall when she would bring hot dishes over to my parents. My parents passed away 30 years ago, and she brought hot dishes weekly for them, and we thought that was so good, and she's still doing that to these days. I don't know of anybody. Does anybody know anybody that has like soup luncheons at Christmas that she invites like 187 friends, and I mean of her closest girlfriends, and she served them, and I'm trying to get out of bed and dressed and showered in time to get there. That's my big production of the day, but she's remarkable. Is there anybody that you know that really can fit more? I know a lot of you know Terry. I got a face over here too, but she hasn't influenced your life in some way or another. I know she's influenced a lot of us. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Terry's scheduling and her calendar and how busy she is. And I'll give you a typical example of that. Probably a couple years ago, out of the garden, there was a bunch of us couples sitting out there, and we thought, maybe we should do a couples trip to Nashville. And we thought it over, and Terry said, well, I'm available March 11th or April 13th. We're like, we don't even know what we're doing tomorrow, and she knows what she's doing 8 months from now. So, I mean, we planned it around because Terry's still working and we're not, so it's all good. She's given us the gift of travel. Our husbands have had a stressful job. Us girls really like to celebrate our birthdays. Really like to celebrate our birthdays. And our husbands have become very stressed out over that. So we took it upon ourselves to plan our own birthdays. So we travel for our birthdays. And we're quite popular when we travel, aren't we, Terry? Yeah, girls, we are. We go on a girls' trip. And Terry, you know, she's on the beach doing her walk at 6. I am not done with my coffee. Sorry, I'll meet you there at 10. But I remember in Cancun for Sandy Butts' birthday, we spent a week there. And we were doing, like on the beach, we're doing yoga. Terry's leading us. We're doing this and whatever she's doing, the downward dog. We get done with our little exercise. We turn around and all these people are doing yoga with us. We're like, wow. And then we do water aerobics. We do this or that. And then we take out Sandy Butts' playlist and we would dance and sing. And some of the mothers, people have come up to us and say, boy, I sure wish I was with you guys. I dump this guy, but the guys like it. Now we've done Amelia Island, we've done a cruise, and now we're looking forward to doing Lori Turk's birthday in Massachusetts and visit the great Shaboons where she met the Arab doctor. So that's our next trip. Anyway, I just looked out of the crowd and I didn't go over her resume because we all know her resume. We all love her to death. And she is teaching us how to age gracefully. We're all aging. Carol Larson, really. I just have to say one thing. Terry's out with Carol one time, and Carol's retiring. And she says, what do? I want to get healthy. I want to do this and I want to do that. And Terry's like, just move. Get up in the morning and move. Keep moving. So Carol stands up during any time. Her watch has told her to stand up. She's done a great job. Anyway, that's how inspiring Terry is. So Terry, thank you so much. I love you. We all love you. And this is my friend, Dr. Ferebee Eckmann. We call her Ferebee from a long time ago. Anyway, love you.
So I announced all of that, and then I announced all of Josh to know, because there's a lot more to all those stories. But anyway, usually I bring music with me whenever I go, and it makes Rick Hedberg really nervous because I always have to get him up dancing. So I didn't bring music tonight. I know you're disappointed that I do have a message of gratitude tonight, because that's what tonight is about for me. I'm really honored to receive this distinguished award. There have been many people that I know and love and care about and have been very impressed with my life that have received this award from Minot State University. Minot State University has been a huge part of my life, and so this is a huge honor to me. I was actually kind of honored to have my picture in the Minot Daily last year next to Josh Duhamel, but yeah, that's beside the point. So over 40 years ago, I know you find that hard to believe, but I made my way to Minot State. I graduated from Cowley High School in 1977, and I was enrolled in Dickinson State. That's where my speech and my music and my basketball competitions were, and I had a lot of scholarships that kind of paved the way. And then about 3 weeks before school started, I stepped outside of my box. Most of my classmates were headed to Minot State, or headed to Dickinson State, but I came to Minot State, and it was one of the best decisions of my life. My experiences in education were second to none, in part because of faculty like Dr. John Torgerson and Dr. David Williams, but more because of the inspiration of other faculty and staff. One of them who is here tonight and has changed a lot of lives, my adopted mom of over 40 years, Garnet Clough. Let's give her a round of applause and have her stand up. She has inspired and changed so many lives. And there were more of us than me that were in the closet at Crane Hall when there was 4 of us, and then one from Penny Andrus cheated under the bed. But we got sent back to our dorms. It was my dad's birthday, so I felt, oh, terrible, but I would rather see my dad than have to go see Dean Cox. But it started an amazing relationship, and she has inspired me. She continues to inspire me today. My position as a faculty member at Minot State University has given me the honor to give back, to teach and inspire. I'm kind of a talent scout. I don't know that like Kent Kirkhammer, he's like this amazing guy that has done such incredible things, and he was the head of our M-Scope, and he was a leader at Minot State University. I get to meet students like that, and after Kent graduated, I thought, you know, where are we going to get more of these Kent Kirkhammers? And every year there's a whole different group, and it's just amazing to me, and it's so fun to be a talent scout, to see all of the incredible characteristics and strengths of our university students, and then help to guide them towards opportunities so that they can achieve their dreams. My motto for them is dream it, plan it, do it. I feel especially privileged and honored tonight to be surrounded by my family and friends, and so I'm going to ask them if they would please stand up, and I'd ask you to give them a round of applause. Come on, stand up, stand up. My mom and dad, Cliff and Mary and Ferebee, were incredible role models, and they always encouraged me to do my best. The saying goes, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. I could not have picked a better family. My sister Suzette is also a best friend. My brothers, Robert and Mark, and their beautiful wives, Heather and Amy, have hearts of gold, and they have given me handsome, smart nephews, a wonderful niece-in-law, an amazing niece, Nicole, who now attends Minot State University. Each one of my family and friends has brought something a little extra to my life. So for the next 45 minutes, I'm going to just share a 1-minute memory with you. Well, John said 3 to 5 minutes, so I'm going to keep those stories on my job. I'm going to keep those stories in the vault, in my head, and in my heart. Please know that I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm not going to do the Josh is going to cry. I'm not doing that. You are the extra that has made my life extraordinary. Our travels, life celebrations, and many adventures are the icing on the cake. My journey to Minot also blessed me with the love of my life, my dear husband, Bob, who has always supported me and never held me back from reaching my goals and achieving my dreams. My mom and dad always said, when you're choosing your spouse, make sure to look at their parents. Iris and Wally paved the way. They sealed the deal. Iris, Bob. Our marriage blessed us with 2 beautiful children, Katie and Cole, and now a really neat son-in-law, Braxton. Katie graduated summa cum laude from Minot in 2019. She shares my love for yoga, learning, and travel. Thailand, Iceland, New Zealand, Australia are some of our journeys, and we have many more to come. Cole and his dad prefer a golf course to an airplane, and it shows because Cole's score on the front 9 is like mine on the first 3 holes. Cole has also blessed us with 2 amazing grandchildren, Nixon and Nellie, and they bring an abundance of joy to our lives. Thanks to Teresa for nominating me. We started in Minot State at the post office working together. And for the Alumni Association for bestowing this distinction on me. I've had many opportunities that I've taken advantage of, and all of my tribe has helped me to succeed. It takes a village, and I am honored on behalf of my village to receive the Golden Award. I'm so grateful for family and friends. They're the blessings that fill my life journey with happiness. I look forward to many more chapters and many more golden memories with you. Thank you.
Now I would like to please welcome Greg Feld to the podium to introduce our next Golden Awards recipient.
He's in his tux. And sandals.
A lot of you people are setting this up perfect for me. I was going to do a bunch of shout outs tonight. I'm still gonna, and then I'll introduce John, but I didn't remember you getting in trouble being in my dorm room. 44 years ago, exactly, I was thinking about that, Terry and I, and about 3-4 other people, would be air guitaring to Sticks in Boston in my dorm room. And I don't ever remember her going to the closet or whatever. But I just want to thank Terry for the student teachers that she sent out to our schools, and she's done a wonderful job in her career. And we appreciate that. And they've all been real good and well trained. Chuck, I'm glad you mentioned Dean because you were next. I've been talking, I wanted to do a shout out to all these people, and you guys set it up perfect. If Dean was here, people weren't at the gala, but he did get roasted by Dean bad. It was so bad that the people that didn't know Chuck thought he was the worst mayor ever. But I'm going to tell you, Chuck was in a tough time with mine, with some of the things that were going on, and I kind of felt sorry for him because some people were thinking that, and he was a great mayor, and he did an outstanding job, and I just wanted to give him a shout out for that. Who else? Oh, Josh. You know what? Josh played football for us, and he was really a good kid. The only thing I'm disappointed is he didn't come out for track his senior year. You know, a kid goes from football to basketball, and you do that for 4 years, and you kind of get burnt out. But I appreciate all the time that he put into the sports he did. I wish I would have had him out the senior year, but that's life. He's gone on to be a model, an actor, a movie star. And the biggest thing I appreciate, Josh, you've been ambassador for North Dakota, and you're keeping it real. That's a good thing. I also want to thank Mark Semrau for getting me involved in this wonderful organization, the Alumni, or the, what the hell board am I on? The Alumni Board, yeah, okay. Alumni Board, and he did an outstanding job, and Rick and Jan, I want to thank you guys for taking it to the next level, and the staff sitting back there, you guys work hard a lot for all the events we do. It's phenomenal. Our travels across the United States, the people we see, the fundraising we do, it's very important to the university, and they're outstanding at what they do. Kevin Neuharth, you were one of my favorite teachers I ever had. He was so mellow in class, and I remember giving a speech, and it was how to brush your teeth. I made it up 10 minutes before I went to class. I took 2 glasses of water, my toothbrush, toothpaste, and a pack of peanut M&Ms. And I was chewing it, spitting stuff in the glass, and the girls were getting grossed out, and I got a B. I do appreciate you and back there, so I feel my bad. Wes Anderson, I had 2 principals in my whole career teaching. One was Mr. Medall, and the other one was Mr. Anderson. I couldn't ask for 2 better principals in the whole world for my whole teaching career. That's phenomenal. And I want to thank you for that. And if Mr. Medall was here, I'd like to thank him too. But you guys were great people. Okay. Okay, here I'm shaking up here. Jesus. You know, when you get this award and you're up here talking, I didn't shake at all. I wasn't nervous or anything. You talk about yourself. Now you got to talk about other people. Okay. John and I go way back. We played sports against each other in Montana. football and basketball, very competitive. We both appreciated each other's talent. We never knew each other. We just knew that we played against each other, we respected each other. And I came to Minot. John graduated 77 and went to Montana State University, one of the best guards to ever come out of Montana. And he was recruited there because being a top guard, it's a good place to go. He got injured, ended up transferring, came to Minot State, saw him on campus, and I was like, what the hell are you doing here? And he looked at me, I don't even know if he knew I was here. We met, hung out, our girlfriends at the time, Nancy and Lori, met, and the rest is history. We've been friends this long, and just appreciate his friendship. You know, somebody asks us, well, who had the better team? And John said, oh, we kicked them by 45. Well, they did early in the year, but at the end of the season, 8 teams went to state. We were one, they were not. Okay, 2 things about John. Getting on a little more serious note. Yeah, you get your turn in a minute. He's a man of faith, and he has a great love for his family. 2 probably most important things to him in his life. Okay. Behind every successful man is a great wife. Lori is above and beyond all that. And I'm serious. If you guys get to know her ever, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. John has had a lot of successes in his life, and he's a very generous person. John has given so much to Minot State that people, I mean, most of us that go to the Gale and stuff know. But John has bought the President's Dinner twice for a lot of money. He's donated his condo 3 years in a row down in Cancun to be auctioned off for nothing. He started a scholarship in his dad's name, and you know, he's just about giving. And this isn't his main university. Aberdeen is. He gives more money to them than us.
So far.
He's just a good friend, and we appreciate everything he's done. And he's instilled that in all his kids, and they have become, they know exactly what their dad's like, and they're becoming just like him. They're all in the business. Okay, I got a little bio I get to read about John. I just got this at like 4 o'clock, so yes, I'm going to read it. John P. Schwann is the founder and CEO of Schwan Financial Group, a multifamily private office and focus on financial estate, business succession, and tax planning based in Aberdeen, South Dakota. Founded in 1984, John and his team of 40 are obsessed with helping businesses, owners, and professionals protect what matters most and enjoy life with the confidence of financial freedom. John's passion for helping people has garnered him recognition as a leader in the industry, including speaking events across the country, publications in Investment Advisor, Financial Planning Magazine, and U.S. News, to name a few. For several years, Schwan Financial Group has also been recognized as a top planning firm by Forbes, and his clients in over 30 states, managing billions of dollars invested in trust assets. John and his wife of 41 years, Lori, have 4 adult children and 4 grandchildren. His oldest son, Kyle, is married to Kayla, and they have 3 children, Kason, Kendall, and Cassidy. Kevin Schwan is married to Andrea. Corey Schwan is married to Kendra, and John's daughter, Katie Weeby, is married to Tyler, and they have a daughter named Quinn. There's 3 names in here. If you changed it to a K, you'd have everybody. Tyler should have been Kyler. Quinn should have been spelled with a K-U-I-N-N. And the other one was... Andrea. Yeah, Andrea would be Candria. Anyway, I'll tell you what, John has done so much for us, you guys, it's unbelievable, and I'm sure there's more of him to do. And I really would like you to welcome John Schwan.
Well, listen, I think my remarks are going to be considered unique at least. But on the serious notes, I'll get those done first.
as in my life, I like to blend a little humor every day with the people I work with every day, and the families that we serve around the country. I just find it a little easier to talk about the toughest things in life, which I call psychonomics, if you have a little humor and a good sense of humor. But as you get older, there's a lot more reflection. The shocking part is I thought it took a lot longer to get older. And it goes very, very quickly. And so I'm noticing that. And you know, it's like when you go to a school reunion and you think, geez, my classmates look old. So I was just saying to my wife, I mean, do I look as old as Blaine Delores? Do I look as old as Tom Larson? And she doesn't say anything. You know, I said, what? I mean, I look like that? I said, how about Josh? She said, John, you've never looked like Josh. Josh, I don't know. You know, I'm sorry, but that's what it is. Well, I grew up, Coach raised me. Grew up in New Salem, North Dakota. Spent most of my life there until we went to Montana. My dad won 72 straight games there. So I always kid people that I got raised by little Vince Lombardi, and I'm going to tell you I did. But you don't appreciate it until you get to reflect or until you start raising your own family. And some of those values are just things that don't go away. Tom Larson, you know, I was in kindergarten and first grade, and he was much older. And he never let me win one game. I remember it because I wouldn't quit, and I peed my pants because I wouldn't go in. And you know, I mean, that's, you don't forget stuff like that, Tom. How about we go a little later? So you reflect on it. You reflect on what did Minot mean, and you don't know it at the time, but it was the time you really grew up because you were on your own. Lori and I got married. Lori was 19 years old. I was 21 years old. But you start thinking about people that had a big influence, and I'll tell you about Wes Luther. I had a lot of private conversations with Wes Luther, and he said, you know, you better grow up. And Wes wasn't one to mix words. And then I think of Kathy Solberg, who was nice. She always made me feel welcome. I'll never forget that. So those things are all good. But to be blessed would be to be me. To be average and have this country to work in and have a work ethic and get smart people and hardworking people around you, what a blessing. So I feel blessed. I know that the heavy load or the weight of our family has been carried by Lori. There's no doubt about it. You could ask anybody, you can ask my children. To be blessed that they would come back, they did not like me when they were in high school. I can guarantee you that. But they're all back home. And so we feel very, very blessed that we're with them every day and working. Being obsessed about helping other people, family businesses. Something clicked with me in my 30s about not being valuable, about creating value, but being valuable. And working with people that go to work every day and employ people and care about what the future looks like, and they love their family and they love who work for them every day. That's who I'm blessed to work with. And there's no more bigger honor when they tell somebody else that those are the people you want to work with. So, Lori, my biggest honor, I feel very good about getting this award at Minot State because I just blended in pretty good. But you really deserve the honor, and I mean that. This has been what we've done together, and you've done most of that, obviously, on your own. And if you're not a little older, you're probably not standing here, you know, so I get all that, but I got to tell you about a story of Rick Hedberg. I was visiting with Rick, and you knew this was coming, Rick. And you know, Rick has been in touch, and you know, so we've done scholarships, and we've done a little bit of this, and Greg is calling on me, and I thought one day, I said, geez, you know, I'm going to get this award. I said, Rick, can Dr. Shirley was there, kind of sitting in the back row like I didn't think he was paying attention. I said, Rick, how big of a donation would it be to get in the Athletic Hall of Fame? And Rick was just about to go 250, and Dr. Shirley said, $1 million. John, people still remember you playing. Anyway, thank you all. God bless. Nancy and Greg Fell. You know who your friends are when you get old. We love you guys. Appreciate you.
It is time to introduce our first Young Alumni Achievement Award winner for the night. The Young Alumni Achievement Award was created to honor a 21 to 39-year-old recipient who has exhibited outstanding service to Minot State University or distinguished leadership in their career and community. At this time, I would like to introduce Ryan Winburn, who will introduce our first Young Alumni Achievement Award recipient for the evening.
Before I get started, I'm going to point out that I was hired by Rand Rodewald in 1999 to teach chemistry here. So I can tell Josh that there was a whole slew of people who enjoyed his organic chemistry class enough to take it 2, sometimes 3 times. But I'm up here to introduce Dr. Joseph Brewer. The first meaningful conversation I can remember with Joseph happened in the spring of 2002. Now, he started at Minot State in 2000, but I didn't get him until he was a sophomore. And the interaction centered around the question, why? And it turns out, he was in my class, it's chemistry class, but he's a physics major. And I found this out, and I asked him, why? And in that light, idealistic second-year college student, he says, because, and this is paraphrasing, I want to make things, important things. And then I said, why do you want to be a physics major then? And I'm going to apologize to Dragic. He's not here, but I'm going to apologize to him anyway. And I said, physicists don't make things. They come up with great ideas, but they don't make things. Chemists make things. And lo and behold, a couple weeks later, my roster changed, and Joseph was a chemistry major. And I have to say, it's probably the best thing that happened to the chemistry industry. So he finished up at Minot State, and he went on to do a job at Johns Manville, a company in Colorado that they make different types of glasses, and they adjust recipes to make better glasses. And so he was making things. But he found out that he didn't just want to make things. He wanted to be the person in charge of making things, not just doing what somebody else told him to do. So he packed up his growing family and moved to Lincoln, Nebraska to go to graduate school at UNL. And there he started to make things. He came out of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln with 3 patents, all of them making things. A high-efficient catalyst was one of them, and the important one for his story was a high-efficiency photovoltaic cell, which in common vernacular is a solar cell. Now, he went and did a postdoc down in Alabama, but an act of God brought him back north to Nebraska, and I literally mean that. A tornado hit the town he was living in, and he was saved by sitting in his bathtub. The rest of the apartment complex was a massive rubble around him. He took that as a sign, I don't need to be in Alabama. So he went back to Nebraska, and with a couple of his friends, started his first company before the age of 30. He licensed the patent from UNL for the photovoltaic cells. And he got started, and he was raising money, and right around that time, there was a couple of issues. The solar cell market was starting to fail, and his photovoltaic cell relied on rare earth elements. And China, if you followed the news, has a chokehold on rare earth elements. So as investors, we're a little leery of investing in a U.S. company on U.S. soil that relied solely on a Chinese export. So rather than giving up, Joseph took a step back and said, okay, what do we do about this? So he started a second company, Rare Earth Salts, a company designed to separate rare earth elements from ores and recycled materials. That company is still going. I happen to be part of that company, I'm proud to say. And through that, he got 2 more patents. I happen to be co-author on one of them, luckily. And he has pulled in on the order of a couple $1 million in grants and contracts through the federal government. And they're looking at him as one of the sole source domestic supplies of rare earth elements. We're also working with the University of North Dakota and North American Coal to extract rare earth elements from North Dakota lignite coals. And crossing our fingers, within the next 5 years, we may have a plant in North Dakota to actually do that. So, without any further ado, I've also got to mention, besides his professional contributions to the community, Joseph is very involved in the community. He is very involved in his church. He's held various leadership positions in the Knights of Columbus. And him and his wife founded the Beatrice chapter of St. Vincent de Paul, a charitable organization to help families in need. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Joseph Brewer.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, so I really don't like this type of stuff. Definitely say as I generally avoid trying to do any sort of awards or anything like that. I would say it goes back to probably the before times where I felt like it would just lead to bad luck. And so I decided, my wife mostly forced me to come up here to come do this. I am extremely honored and also very anxious at the reality of doing this and going through with this tonight. But I was receiving a reward regardless of whether I wanted to or not, so I might as well come talk. So tonight, I guess I want to let you guys know I have an interesting life. I'm actually a very impulsive person, and so as Dr. Winburn just said, he's teaching chemistry, talking to a guy, and then the next thing he knows, he's changed majors. And that's really kind of the story of my life, and I will go through that kind of a little bit, is my backstory and everything. But tonight, I just want to let you guys know. So I have 2 really good friends that I met here at Minot State, Billy and Dusty Weishauer. So they're here tonight. I have my parents here tonight who actually got me into the state of North Dakota from our previous residence out in Seattle, and Dr. Winburn, who taught me chemistry at Minot State, and then I have Mr. Don Hoff, who actually got me into the physical sciences when I didn't know what I was going to do in high school. So
I wanted to be a physicist.
He did, which is why I was a physicist when I began. So I would say my life is more of a life of divine providence, is probably the way I would put it. So my story really begins when I'm 11 years old in Seattle and had gotten in an accident with a car while I was riding a bike. So ended my sports career pretty quickly. I was in a body cast for 3 months, and there was a realization that sports was not on the table anymore. So school became the focus. Fortunately, my parents decided that when my brother and I were getting ready for high school, my mom is actually from Carlsruhe, which is a small town outside of Minot here.
Go Carlsruhe.
The Klein and Burkhardt family, as it were, so there's lots of them everywhere. We came back and didn't know what to think, landed in Velva, North Dakota, where it turns out there was a Mr. Hoff there teaching sciences. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but that move back to North Dakota was going to guess, begin a series of things that were going to change my life for the better. So going through school, sophomore year of high school, finish up, I'm already starting to think, like, what am I going to do with my life after this? Had no clue where it's going into. Loved math, saw no future in it. Junior year, took my first physical science course ever. It was chemistry. Absolutely freaking loved it. I was like, this is me, I'm a scientist. So got through my chemistry course, went into my senior year, took physics, and even found a more in-depth love of science when I took physics. Another moment of divine providence works out here. So I decide that I want to be a physics major, potentially, but I'm looking at chemistry and physics. Apply to both Briarcliff University down in Sioux City, Iowa, and Minot State. Get accepted to both, full ride scholarships for both. One does not have physics at it though. So decided against Briarcliff and chose Minot State, and without knowing it at the time, probably one of the best decisions of my life. Get done with high school, come here for college. Winburn, Dr. Winburn told you the story about changing degrees. Really had no clue what that was going to do for me going forward, but I did really love making things from the time I was about 11 to 12 years old. I was doing carpentry with my parents, and we spent a lot of time building houses. So I'm probably one of the few mechanically inclined chemists you will ever see in your life. Spend a lot of time building things. I do all my own remodeling on my house because of the background that I have, and it actually led to a lot of my engineering side of things that plays out throughout the rest of my chemistry career. After switching majors, getting ready to graduate, senior year of college here, run into this brown-haired lady at the honors department named Kayla. Yeah, so met her first date. It was September 11th, 2003, and 3 months later I'm engaged. So when I said I'm impulsive, I'm impulsive. So I knew at that time that this was the lady that was going to be there for me. So graduated that following spring, married in June, so do the math, that is not even a year yet together. We move out to Denver, Colorado, and right before that we're actually doing siding with my parents at a job site out in Grand Forks, kind of in the in-between time trying to figure out what I was going to do. My wife and I are actually working together. So this is, by the way, this is going to be foreshadowing. It's going to build suspense for an eventual outcome here. She looks me dead in the face and says, "There is no way we will ever work together. I cannot stand the way you do this." Foreshadowing. All right. So I take a job out at Johns Manville to get into my chemistry career. They are a company that makes fiberglass insulation, and a huge company. I get there, I'm doing QA/QC work for them, samples coming in from all over the country and a few over in Europe, testing glass. Okay job, nothing terrible, 9 to 5. Fortunately for me, they allowed me to work straight 8, so I actually got there at 6 and left at 2. Still terrible traffic. It was, I live in Colorado Springs, it was Colorado Springs to Denver every day. It was an hour in the morning and 3 hours at night. One day, they had a new hire there. He was actually a physical chemist, which is your version of a physicist within the chemistry world. I saw what he was doing one day. I was asking him some questions, and after my conversation, on my way home, I called my wife and I said, "I want this guy's job. Like, this is the job and what I want to do going forward." I got home and literally started the process of impulsive, once again, applying to graduate schools. So before I even knew it, I was applying to schools all over the place. So I was in Hawaii, Vanderbilt, UNL, And lo and behold, our first child is on the way, going into what is going to be my graduate career. So fortunately for me, it made it a very easy decision. UNL paid the most, ergo UNL gets to have me. I get there, daughter's born in May, we get there in July. I join a lab, brand new professor. Got there March that year, has one undergraduate student, no postdocs, no graduate students. Hands me a stack of papers and goes, have fun, you're gonna build my lab for me. So I start looking through everything, and over the course of the next 5 years, a great relationship with Dr. Chung showed me essentially how to build out a lab. He made me do it myself, which I do really appreciate, putting together all the piping, building cabinets, learning how to do chemistry for the first time, and really actually becoming a chemist for the first time in my life. Absolutely loved it. One of the first projects I began working on was a project working on rare earth functional materials, and it turns out there's not a lot of people out there doing this work, and most of it was done in Russia in the late 80s, and that was kind of the last glimpse of it stateside here. And so I took that as an opportunity to just jump into something nobody else was doing, and I had no guiders or no direction to go, and I actually enjoyed that. So after 5 years in graduate school, 2 more kids later, by the way, so 5 years of graduate school, 3 children later, I get done, take my job at U of A, postdoc position. She's finishing up a accounting and finance degree at UNL. Talking to her one night and just, hey, getting ready to go to church, love you, oh, there's a tornado, and that was it. And then about 2 hours later, I had Sprint cell service at the time. Turns out I was the only one who could call. Before that tornado, I was the only one who couldn't call anybody. And I had a magical phone that worked all of a sudden. And so sure enough, a couple days later, somebody was down there to pick me up, came back home and said, well, if we're gonna do this, and she's like, do it now, because if you're gonna start up a company, do it while the kids are young. Kids are not young anymore, still starting up a company. So glad we started early. Started my solar company, trade war with China, made things very challenging. Moved here actually for 2 years, started up rare salts actually in Minot here. One of the guys who helped us get started, John Coughlin, is actually here tonight, sir. Great town, took an interest in what I was doing, and I really appreciate it. And as we were going, we were working with some large mining companies, and they asked us to start working on some separation work for them. That's when I talked to Dr. Winburn at Minot State as we were kind of getting back into our relationship, and as we started working on this project together, he decided that it was worth maybe spending a little bit more time on it. Thank goodness he did. His help, we've been able to really kind of move our company forward. But with that, during this time, after my wife had finished up her accounting and finance degree, she actually was an auditor for the state of Nebraska, and then eventually decided to start helping me with the company as our chief financial officer. She was right, she wasn't gonna work with me, I was gonna work for her, is really what it came down to. So, and she has really been the only reason I think Brian and I are actually here before you tonight. 3 kids later, after the first 3, by the way, she has actually kind of kept the whole thing afloat. The rare earth market is not a stable place by any means. China manipulates it on a daily basis, and there's probably been 4 market collapses since the time we started, and we are one of the only small separator companies that are still functioning, and we are growing, and it's mainly because of her. And so I would say is, really after 8 years of doing this, as much as I appreciate the acknowledgement, I guess, of what Dr. Wimber and I have done and the effort that I guess I've put over. I'm really just a plucky North Dakota kid, now plucky Nebraska kid, I guess you kind of look at it. I don't look down at anything in the sense of, I believe my degree at Minot State, my degree at UNL was good or better than anybody else's degree out there. So when we sit around a table, I'm not ashamed of where I came from, and I in fact do believe it generally makes me better. But the real reason I think I'm here and Ryan's here and anybody's here is really because of my wife. You know, she manages the 6 kids at home, but then she has 13 kids at work that she has to deal with. And she's got a lot on her plate for sure, and she is there with me. She's my treasurer at home, at work. She's my treasurer at the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. We do marriage counseling classes together. We teach CCD together. We really do everything together, and really came out of my time at Minot State. And obviously you guys, I think, have all heard several stories tonight about that reality of people coming here, meeting their wife, and she's really just changed everything. And you know, I think for the most part is all that I have is because of her existence in my life, and thank God for that, because I would be a mess if it wasn't for her. So really thank you all, and more importantly, thank my wife for everything she's done to keep me afloat. So God bless and good night.
We'll now move on to start celebrating our 2021 winners. And so with that, I would like to please welcome Jennifer Noboom and Jessica Nelson to the podium to introduce our next Golden Awards recipient for the evening.
Good evening, everyone. Before you start, just so you know, we're going to kind of go back and forth, so we're going to see how this goes.
And we haven't practiced.
And we have not practiced whatsoever. So, my name is Jennifer Noboom, and most of you in this room know me as Jenny Anderson.
And I'm Jessica Nelson. And most of you know me as Jessica Nelson, but I was Jessica Anderson.
So our father graduated from Minot State University back in 1968, where he had a bachelor's in math and business education. He worked in public education for over 40 years, 9 as a teacher and 31 of those as an administrator. And both my sister and I had the privilege of having him be our administrator at one point throughout our high school career. There were good times and there were bad times. Most of those were good, but some days we'd come home and wish that he wasn't our administrator.
During his career as an educator, he received many national awards and recognitions, and so we would like to talk about a few of them. The first one I would like to talk about is the North Dakota Principal of the Year Award, and this included an all expense paid, the font is really big, that's why we have a lot of pages, just so, included an all expense paid trip to Washington, D.C. for the presentation of the award for him and my mom. And Washington, D.C. ended up being a really, a place that my mom and dad went to a lot. They really enjoyed it. They probably got there once a year, and it ended up being a place that we enjoyed going with them for our family trips.
Dad also won the Millikan National Educator of the Year Award. This included a $25,000 cash award as well as an all expense paid trip and a banquet in Los Angeles. And the one thing that I remember about that is once he received that award, the first thing he said was, wow, $25,000. We can take that money, think of what we can do at the school, think of what programs we could start, think this. And they looked at him and said, no, that money is actually for you. That's for you and your family. And all I know is this, my mom had a couple new outfits, I remember that for sure. And I'm pretty sure our basement got a redo for that.
Another award that he received is the Dr. Earl Room National Advisor of the Year Award. And he didn't know that he had been selected to receive the award, which was presented at a national meeting in Chicago. So when he was at the awards banquet and they called him up and said that, you know, this couldn't happen without, everyone knows that you would not receive this award without the support of your wife, Debbie. And so then the presenter said, and Debbie, would you please come up on the stage? And he said, no, she's not here. She couldn't come. She was busy. And then the presenter said, well, who is this beautiful woman walking toward the stage? So my mom knew, they had contacted her, she was coming. My dad didn't know. And what they did is they flew her in, so she had 2 days to shop on the Riverwalk in Chicago. So it was a great award, but it was expensive.
Another award was a Distinguished Service Award, and this was from NASSP. This award was established in 2017, and what was so special about this award, he was the very first principal in the entire United States to receive this recognition. So it was a huge honor. This award was presented in Philadelphia at the National Principals Conference. This was also an all-paid trip, and I'm telling you what, I don't know anyone else who has more full expense paid trips than my dad. It's kind of crazy, but he's had a lot of those trips paid. It was supposed to be paid for both my mom and dad, but my mom was not able to travel anymore. So I think this is the most disappointing thing for this award is that my mom was not able to travel with him to this award. And without her support and hard work, he would never receive this award.
So,
Sorry. Sorry.
From all these, and then I'm having a hot flash. So, with all these awards and all these perks that my mom and dad got, Jenny and I also would get some perks and some things when they would be gone. So, I do remember one trip they went on. I have no idea where they went, but our grandma Adeline, that's my dad's mom, came to babysit us. And we had, I think it was for a week, I don't even remember. But when they came home, we had a dog. we were so excited. And so my dad was saying, like, the dog's going back. And Grandma said, well, that's fine, you can take it back, but it's been here for a week. So, and then I was also told by Grandma that, or my mom, that she said, Leslie, those girls need a dog. And then, in the end, my mom said, we have a dog.
So we definitely liked it when they'd go on the trips and leave us home with Grandma.
Yes.
My mom and dad, they also volunteered to work with the North Dakota Student Activities Association, actually for the last 42 years. Dad is still part of that organization and still helps with it. It's with Student Council, Honor Society, middle level advisors and students, and they still have those conferences and Dad still goes to those. And I think what we think is so special is right now that their service practice has been Alzheimer's awareness, and that's what they've done for the last 3 years, and so we're really proud of that.
My dad is also currently an active member of the National, all these things have the longest names, National Association of State Student Council Executive Directors. And he served as president for 3 years, and he's been on the board for the past 31 years, and right now he is the treasurer. While working with students and state executive directors, our mom and dad, they traveled to 49 states and have visited every major city. And so there were times when Jenny and I would get to come with. And I mean, I probably was a junior or senior in high school before I thought everybody went on vacation with a busload of high school students. I didn't know that people just went on vacation. And I also didn't know that, like, when you go on vacation, I thought everybody drove the bus, that all the kids were at the convention. I thought every family just drove a big bus by themselves to go to all these fun places. I'm done.
Okay. And also, just because I've lived kind of in different places, every time that we go anywhere outside of the state of North Dakota, we can be like at a Chili's in the middle of who knows where, and they'll come over and say, hey, Mr. Mr. Anderson, and it's crazy. So anywhere we go, Dad always knows someone. Someone knows him. It's like, I don't even understand it, but because he's been everywhere, everyone knows who he is.
And as soon as they say their name, he's like, oh, yeah.
And he remembers where he knew him, very personable, and so the kids, they love that. Dad also started a national leadership camp in Outlaw Ranch, and maybe whoever went to high school maybe went to Outlaw Ranch. I don't know if you did. I know that Jess and I did. I went 1 year as a delegate, and if anyone knows my dad, he's the most positive person. So the glass is always half full. He's always positive. It would drive us crazy sometimes, but he's the most positive person you know. So when you get off the bus at Outlaw Ranch, I was a delegate for the 1 year, you get off, and everyone is just screaming and yelling, and I thought, okay, this is how this week's gonna go. And I thought that has to do with my dad and how he trained all the leaders. Well, a couple years later, my sister and I went with my mom, and we were gonna go on vacation, but we weren't gonna participate in this leadership camp. But of course, we rode the bus, because that's just what you do when you go on vacation, you ride on a bus with 30 people, and we get off the bus, and everyone's, Jess and I are like, nope, we're not doing this, and went the other way, and we're not in the camp this time. So that was just all of our years of that's just what we did. If anyone knows my dad, they know that this has been his life. He has just been education, kids, that is what he's wanted to do for his entire life. I know that we've told all these stories, but one person that I know that was very important to my dad was Dr. Earl Room, who was one of his mentors. One thing that he said is, you might have walked with greatness and didn't even know it. And that was a quote that Dr. Earl Room would say, but I think that after my dad has touched so many people, I think that people, would refer that statement to my dad, and my dad doesn't even know it. Kind of going to a little bit of a personal thing, like when I was in high school, Jess and I, we spent every single Sunday of our entire life up at the school. We were there at Central or Jim Hill, and we would play basketball, we would skate in the hallway, we would swim, might have been a dog in the hallway, maybe not, probably shouldn't have said that, but we were, every single Sunday of our life, we were at the school. Every single Friday night, we would see our entire family at a basketball game, at a football game. Dad was in charge of dinner every single Friday night, we would have pizza. That was just our life because he put that first, and in order for you to be such a successful person, you have to include your family in that. So we were just included in everything that you do. On a personal note, I haven't lived here for a long time, but Dad has put family first, even though, education has been everything for him. He puts us first. And an example of this is, I'm in my 40-something, and my dad has never missed my birthday. So it doesn't matter where I live, he will fly or drive to find me. He will bring me a balloon, he will have a cake, and we will have a birthday celebration. He was just visited me 3 weeks ago. He's never missed my birthday in the 40-plus years that I've been alive because he puts family first, and that's the type of man that my dad is.
Okay, well, I will go on a personal note now. Is that where we are?
Yep,
Okay.
that's where we're at.
Okay. I grew up obviously in the same household with the same going to games and all the family things that we did together, and I think because of that, I went into education. I I guess started out like my mom did. She was a Title I teacher. That's what I did. I see some people that she worked with. And then I did title for a couple years, and I thought, no, I don't like this. I want a class. So then I taught classroom, and now I'm a special ed teacher. So I think all of just how we grew up and what we were exposed to, we just wanted to work with kids and give back. So, are we done?
All right. At this time, we would like to introduce our dad, Les Anderson, to the stage.
To the podium.
I gave most of my 10 minutes to the group, so mine is going to be real short. But They mentioned Dr. O'Roon, and he was a mentor of mine, and he had a couple, he'd given me some advice, and the first one was never pass up an opportunity to go to the bathroom. And I took care of that before we started the program, because I thought we'd be sitting for a while. And John, if you'd have taken that advice when you were in kindergarten, then you probably wouldn't have peed your pants. I was real concerned about coming to the program because I don't sit very well. I don't sit very well at all. I kind of like to keep going. And but I love this program because the second piece of advice that Dr. Rubin said to me is never pass up an opportunity to stand up. Hey, we're standing up every 10 minutes. It's great. And of course, when I would bring in keynote speakers and just so that their ego wouldn't, get too big because after the session is over, they normally give them a standing ovation, and I would tell the speakers, no, I've already told the students never pass up an opportunity to stand up. So this award is not about me, and the other awards and recognitions that I've received are not about me. It's about the people who I've surrounded myself with. And a good example are Jane and Norma here, who are sitting at our table. I've known them my entire career here at Minot, back to college. And just a note about Army, when I moved to Jim Hill, or when Dr. Mundy moved me to Jim Hill, they were expecting some changes, and one of the big changes was we were going to transition the state of North Dakota from junior high school to middle school. And I didn't want to make any drastic changes, so I was kind of just doing things slowly. And one day, Army came into my office, and he closed the door. Now, as a principal, the people that come in my office, they don't close the door, I close the door. And so I knew this was serious. And Army just says, I know that we're going to do this. I know that you're going to get your way, so just tell me what you want us to do. And that was good advice. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do, and we move forward with that. There are so many people, as I indicated, this recognition is not, again, about me. It's about all the people that I've surrounded myself with. And there are so many people that I need to thank, but I'm only going to mention two by name. And the first one is the person who nominated me for this award, and that's Bruce Walker and his wife Diane over here. And Bruce has been a huge part of my life, and he's gotten me into more situations, encouraged me to do different things. He got me involved in all the student activities. He got me involved in the Minot State Alumni Association board, just a number of different things that he got me involved in. But all of those things made me a better person and made me work harder and motivated me and inspired me. And so Bruce, I appreciate everything that you've done for me my whole life. And I did have an opportunity to kind of pay him back a little bit. When we were first started out working, of course, you're always short of money, and you need an opportunity to make a little extra money. And I was the bartender in the locker room at the country club. And Debbie and I wanted to go someplace for the weekend, so I asked Bruce, I said, hey, the tips are great, so you want to help, be the bartender in the men's locker room? And he said, well, I have no idea how to bartend. I say, beer, whiskey water, gin tonic, they'll know what type of drink that you want. So Bruce agreed to do that, and of course Debbie and I left town. And what happened was the bartender in the main bar, I don't know if he didn't show up for work or they were overwhelmed, but anyway, there was a big party in there. So they moved Bruce from the locker room out to the main bar. And so within, that evening, Bruce learned how to be a bartender. So the second person who I'm going to thank, of course, and she is my oracle. She's the oracle in my life. And not only does she guide me and give me good advice, but she's my best friend, and she loves me unconditionally. And people that know me well, That's sometimes a little difficult because I guess, people tell me I can be difficult sometimes. But those are the two people that I would like to publicly thank, and of course that's Debbie, I'm sure all of you know that. I've been an executive director, for the state of North Dakota for the student activities, and I'm the oldest executive director in the country. Phil Kukliusa from Louisiana was the oldest, and of course the kids could never pronounce his last name, so they called him Mr. Phil. But Mr. Phil finally retired, so now I have seniority. I'm the oldest executive director. I'm 75. Now, I'm by far older than the rest of the executive directors. And most of it is a full-time job. Debbie and I, we volunteered to do all this work. A lot of the other, some of the executive directors, it's not a full-time position, but they get a substantial honorarium to do it. We decided to do it as volunteers because we wanted to give back to the kids and to the state of North Dakota and to the kids across the nation. And people ask me, why do you do this? Why do you do this? And of course, it's because of the kids. So I'm going to tell a quick story here, and then I'm finished. And we have our state conference. We have 3 state conferences every year. And before, we bring the kids in a little bit early. And so I meet with the kids and go through the schedule, because I staff the stage. It's a student-led conference, and I staff the stage, and that's why it's been so successful. But anyway, I was meeting with the mid-level students, and they're very attentive. And the one student from Bismarck knew the mayor of Bismarck very well. Knew the mayor of Bismarck very well, and he was just intent. He said, he can get him to come to our conference and speak. And of course, normally I wouldn't do that, because it's not a Bismarck conference; it's a state conference, and the students, the officers, actually host it. So I tell him, I said, okay, that's fine. You can have the mayor come, but that's all he gets is a minute and a half. That's it. Chuck, is that possible that the mayor can only speak for a minute and a half? Okay. So a minute and a half, that's it. And kids say, okay. And this Dr. Earl Room, he's kind of a prankster. And he says, here's what we do. When there's somebody speaking, and if they go over the allotted time, we turn out the lights. And then when somebody goes up on stage and they help them off the stage, and then when the lights come back on, we just continue with the program. And now, some of you who've worked with middle-level students, they take things quite literally. And so they don't get the joke, I don't think. And they're kind of shaking their heads and saying, yeah, that'll work. So anyway, we start the program, and we always invite our U.S. senators to our conference, and they've been great about attending. And this particular year, Senator Conrad was speaking, but we give them 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes. And again, we give them like a short introduction, 20 minutes, almost 25 minutes of questions, because we're not interested in having them do a political speech. So it's 25 minutes of questions from the students. So what happens is he's probably about 23, 24 minutes into the questions and stuff, and all of a sudden the lights go out. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in the Dakota Ballroom in Bismarck, but the lights, there's kind of a keypad with the lights, and the top button turns the lights off, and the bottom button turns them back on, and then the 3 middle buttons, of course, they variations. And of course, I always have somebody back by the lights, because during the program we do different lighting. Well, so after the program's over, of course, we got the lights back on, and Senator Conrad, took his last 5 minutes and he left. But after the program was over, one of the middle-level boys came up to me and said, now, did Senator Conrad go over his time, and we were supposed to go up on stage and help him off the stage? Again, that is why I love working with students, and I continue to do this. So Before I close, and I've assigned some people to help me off the, to do the, get me off the stage, and I'll be calm. But before I do is I just want to say something to Josh, and Debbie was the person, Josh is our godson, so we're the godparents for Josh. But Debbie was the person that always remembered your birthday and reminded me to get you a card and a gift for your birthday. So it wasn't me, it was her that took care of that. So at this time, I've assigned a couple people. Myron, where are you at? He's in charge of the lights. And then Mike and Marie. I think I'll be able to make it back to the table even in the dark. So, but again, thank you very much. I really appreciate Minnesota State College University for recognizing me. And thank you.
Dr. Shirley, if you would please join me at the podium to introduce our next Golden Awards winner.
Now Rick Hedberg stepped out. Just wanted to say, John Schwan, in the attempted Athletic Hall of Fame bribery scandal that you mentioned earlier, in Vice President Hedberg's defense, at the time he was still pretty new in his position, he knows to ask for more now. He's learned. That's right. It's my privilege to present Dr. Michael Lebeau this evening. Upon graduation from Burke Central High School in Lignite, North Dakota in 1991, Michael Lebeau came to Minot State University to continue his education. Mike also claims strong and deep family roots in Newtown and truly considers it to be his home. Mike graduated from Minot State in 1995 with a degree in psychology. While at MSU, he was also a student athlete, participating in both the cross-country and golf teams. Mike went on to medical school at the University of North Dakota. Dr. Lebeau did his residency in La Crosse, Wisconsin, as well as a nephrology fellowship at the University of Iowa. He is board certified by the American Board of Internal Medicine. Following Iowa, Dr. Lebeau began his career in what was then Med Center 1 in Bismarck as a nephrologist specializing in kidney care. Dr. Lebeau played a leadership role in the transition of Med Center 1 with Sanford, and since that time, he moved into several administrative roles focused on quality, performance, and patient care, including serving as the president of the Bismarck region of Sanford, and now serves as the chief administrative officer for Sanford Health. Mike and his wife Michelle live in Bismarck, and the Lebeaus have 5 children. I also know Mike remains active on the golf course to this day, and it would probably do my golf game to do some good to get a few lessons from Dr. Lebeau. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome MSU Golden Award recipient, Dr. Michael Lebeau.
Thank you. First off, I just would also like to say it's an honor to be here. It's fun to be back on campus. It's amazing how years go by quick, and I hear the same stories as people talk. And it was just a few years ago we drove up to meet with Rick and Dr. Shirley, and walking onto campus, just floods you with those emotions. Golf is one of the things that got me here. It's probably not your routine recruitment story. So I was telling Rick that, back then, went to every single Minot State camp. And Dick always said, I have a spot on my team for you. Every camp I went to out of all those years. But people forget he was also the golf coach. So no matter how many basketball camps I went to, I never made it past the golf team. And like I said, he took good care of me there. Cross country is an interesting one. And I wouldn't even try to buy my way into the Hall of Fame. My stories aren't probably quite as good. My cross country career was short. It was my senior year at Minot State. I was running down the street, literally right down the street, and some strange guy in a station wagon rolled down his window and asked me, "Hey, do you run a lot?" Yeah, I guess a lot. I don't know about a lot, but I run. He said, "Hey, you want to join cross country?" So I said yes, also spontaneous maybe. So I actually started cross country later that day. So that was Wiley Wilson. So anybody that knows Wiley, that's the way Wiley operates. But for me, when I think about it, I think that's really what makes Minot special. You know, small town kid from Portal moves to Newtown, perfect. You fit right in here. You don't have to be anything different. You just get to be yourself. And so, as you look around the room, I mean, most of us come from those small towns. You know, even the Minot guys, the city guys from Minot. As you get out, you know, those are small places. And as I think back on the years at Minot State, you know, I think back on Dr. Burke and Dr. Cole Harding and psychology. You know, you got to be who you wanted to be. You got to set things up the way you wanted. You didn't have to conform to certain ways. You just had to learn what they did. They cared about you as a person, but the education is great. As I get a chance to go out and speak to other kids, and when you think about it, not only when you go out as a North Dakotan, as a Minot State graduate, you don't have to feel bad for it. You should be proud of it. And you should tell everybody that if you're lucky, I'll bring one more with me, and we'll make this a better place. We know how to work, we know how to treat people, and more importantly, we know how to gain success for others that we serve. My favorite part of my job, whether it was practicing or now leading a healthcare system, is really having the ability to make a difference. But that's what Minot State is rooted in, is really making a difference for others. And when I think back on that, that's really, I think, probably the key thing that I think about. You know, as I'm lucky to have my parents here tonight, Louis and Pat, it's something that hard work and how you treat people is there. I have a couple of my boys, everybody else is busy, and then my wife. You know, as you think about the hours you put in, they add up fast. And if you like serving others, you get a lot of opportunity to do that. And when you're serving others, you don't necessarily get to serve your house. And so I think it's important to think about that and to thank those around us. Before I go, like I said, I really want to say thanks. When I think about Minot State culture and who we are, as I go through the pandemic and spend a lot of time talking about difficult things, the world could use Minot State. As you guys are out, remember acceptance and kindness and leading and serving. That's what we all need. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's take a little trip to Hartnett Hall. Chad Gifford, would you please join me at the podium to introduce our next Golden Awards recipient?
Set a timer on my phone so I don't talk too long. It's a little early for me out here. I don't usually come out to talk until about 8:30. But while I'm here, in case you need to go use the bathroom, it's right down the hall. Anyway, so far they're all working, which is great for me. So, I guess it's not that kind of speech tonight. So, 27 years ago, in 1994, is when I first came to MSU. And I had a very different plan in mind. I was actually here on a chemistry scholarship. And much like some other people here, I did not have a good time with science. So that scholarship was kind of a waste. Instead, I also spent a little bit of time over in Hartnett Hall, and that was when I first met Kevin. Also, fun fact, I took speech from Kevin, and the first thing that he did tonight when he saw my note cards was say I had way too much stuff on there. So clearly I wasn't a good student there either, and I'll do my best following along there. So when I first met Kevin, he scared the crap out of me. He seemed like he knew everything, and as a freshman in college, I knew nothing. I showed up to a work call to try and learn something about building, and I didn't know anything at all. And I showed up, and he came up to me, and he said something that appeared to be a foreign language. It was something like, go grab 4, 6 2x4s from there, and I thought, those are all just numbers. How can they mean anything? And so, being a young, foolish guy, I smiled and nodded and walked over there, and I had no idea what I was supposed to go get, and I just hid in the corner until I found someone else to go do that. And for a while, I thought I knew nothing and everyone else knew a lot. I continued to hang out there, take a bunch of classes from him, and eventually I learned something, and this might become a shock for some of you. Right away, it was very gruff, very, very polite all the time, and then I discovered that when you finally earn Kevin's respect and he really starts to like you, he shows it to you by swearing at you. You know? And so his closest of friends are the ones he's dropping the F-bombs to. You know, when he finally turned to me and was like, what the hell, man? I was like, all right, I'm in. Finally got there. So, and by the way, if he hasn't sworn at you, I'm sorry. You're not his friend. That's how it goes. So, who is Kevin? He's worn a lot of hats over the years. He is, of course, a teacher. A lot of people here have talked about having him as a teacher. I was lucky enough to have him as a teacher as well. He loved learning. He inspired a love of learning. The students in his classes learned not only about the things in the classroom, but he connected it to life and the real world. And so everything that we learned in speech class and theater classes, they weren't only confined to the stage, but they applied far beyond that. And so he really made an impact that way. And he cared deeply about everyone who was one of his students. He came to everyone's weddings. He came to all of the births. He would be there in hospitals. He would show up with pizza and crock pots full of pulled pork, and Cindy probably made it, but he was there at all of the events, everywhere, really just to show everyone how much he cared. And people knew that. Still to this day, every one of his students continues to reach out and ask for advice. Even now in retirement, people are still calling him in to help out with classroom things and theater things and well, everything, because he just knows it all. He is, of course, a theater artist. I'm still amazed at the things that he does. I've been following in his footsteps forever, and every time I think that I've really got it figured out, he comes along and shows me a simpler, faster, better way to do it without thinking about it at all. He's really a genius at those things, and it really irritates the crap out of me. Just recently, he was designing and directing a show at Central Campus, and I came down with all of my students from Magic City campus, and all of them looked at his stage, and they looked at me, and they were like, why don't you do something like that? I'm like, I don't know. Give me a little more time. I'm going to try and get there one of these days. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about summer theater. He was an integral part of that for many years. He'll be the first to tell you that he did not start summer theater, but I'll be the first to tell you that he made it what it is today. It was his passion, his hard work, his just He inspired so many people to be a part of it. It was an inclusive atmosphere, and I can't think of a better legacy to leave behind than the amazing summer theater program that I'm privileged to work at. And you know that it was good. They just invested $2 million into it. So, you know, good work there. Yeah, I can talk about summer theater all day, but that's what I usually do, so I'll move right on. As I was trying to think about what I was going to say about Kevin, I followed a lot of our Facebook posts, and I reached out to a number of his former students and talked to them. And so I started gathering up, people had words of wisdom that Kevin had shared with them over the years, and so I thought I'm going to share some of those with you. Some of them are really insightful, and some of them are just memorable. There's one that I stole. All of my students at Minot High School think that I came up with these words of advice, but no. Once upon a time, he told me this deep thought: don't suck. I took it with me, you know, applied it to things. Another chestnut was, try acting, for God's sake. That one didn't work out, so I direct now. Tried it, failed, wasn't that good. But he also had a number of other things. People shared ideas like peace and love. That was a thing he shared. He told us to relish in the discovery because this will never happen again, which you can think about in theater or just for life. He told people to enjoy the beauty of live theater because every night will be unforgettable. And my final thing here was that theater is something that you can't repeat, and that's why it's wonderful. I think that is what's true about Kevin. There's no one like him, and that's why he's wonderful. So, thank you.
What everybody else said. Well, thanks, Chad, for all those lies you've told, good and bad. Thanks for the introduction. Thank you, Kim, for bringing him here and for being such great friends. I appreciate it very much. This is truly a humbling moment when you are granted such an achievement as this. It can't be anything other than a humbling moment, receiving this acknowledgement, and seeing so many others that I've had a chance to work with already achieving this award. Cheryl Nielsen, I've seen over here. Joe Alney, Joe Hegstead from years past. So many others that I've had the opportunity to work with, Sandy as well. It's just, it's mind-boggling that I'm up here. To be able to share this evening with such wonderful people, as you've already heard from and will yet hear from. You know of anyone more loyal and compassionate than Liz Anderson, or more driven and demanding than Terry Ferebee. She was probably a student of mine too. And I'm fairly certain that Feld is lying about that B. Because if you put that B together, it's actually two Ds. And the top D was for that speech, and the bottom D was for the next speech. So I know that Greg was a student, and I know that Arnold, who's going to be up here very soon, was also a student, and a fine, excellent student. I haven't really had the opportunity to give many speeches over the last couple of years because I've been retired, except to sell you a tree or a shrub out at Lowe's. I've mostly been doing eulogies. So we can either think of this as my eulogy, or we can say, I hope this is not an omen. My introduction to Minot State Theater was a production of Macbeth back in about 68 or 69. I don't really remember the exact date. It was in McFarland Auditorium, now Ann Nicole Nelson. And a fabulous performance. My high school director, Gary Volk, who was a Minot State grad, brought several of us up here to see the performance. And the performance that I remember most, and I know you all remember your Macbeth, is that of the porter in Act 2. And that was Chuck Schultz. An unbelievable performance. One scene, no more, but he was absolutely the most real thing in that moment on the stage. He was not acting, he was the porter. And for him, that play was about the porter. And that is over the 40 years plus of teaching that I had the unbelievable pleasure of being involved in. That is the one thing that I think I encouraged most. And that is to find the absolute soul and the essence of that individual. And that will be who you are for the next 2 hours or 2 minutes, depending upon what you are. So that performance was enough to sell me on Minot State, back then Minot State College. I did come to school here, and I loved my 4 years here. And you can see some of that in that little booklet that everybody has. Had a great time on the stage in McFarland because all of the theater performances were on that stage. My first show here was Taming of the Shrew, I think, followed by Richard III, so I was introduced to Shakespeare right away. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. Tom Turner was my director, and he would say, "Stay over there in the corner," and then he'd walk away. And even when I was involved in my first performance. But the people that I'm most grateful to, most thankful for, are those people. Most of them are here tonight. My mom and dad, of course. You have to thank your mom and dad. Back in the early 70s, late 60s, you have a kid who's more interested in the arts than in the football field or the basketball court. It just was not something that anybody really encouraged. But no one ever discouraged it either. Mom and dad just said, I don't know if they even thought much about it. If I wanted to do it, go ahead and do it. I was fortunate to have an older sister and a younger sister, Bobby and Cindy, both Minot State grads. And they were the students. And so then I could be the artist. I was able to get under the wire. The most crap I ever got from my dad was, your hair is too long. Up until the day he died, I think he said, yeah, if you'd only cut your hair. So I thank Bobby and Cindy for supporting me, and they're both here tonight with Charles and Lowell, brothers-in-law of mine, who are more like brothers than brothers-in-law. And I am so grateful for that. For years, every Thanksgiving, every Easter, we were together. And I'm so grateful for that. A niece and nephew, Heather and Michael Netzloff, both Minot State grads. You can see a little bit of what's going on here. Neither of them could be here. One's in Phoenix right now, and the other is traveling around North Dakota or someplace. But they're very active, very driven. That work ethic that someone else talked about earlier is certainly what we in North Dakota are all about, and I think we here are all about as well. So I'm grateful to all of those. I am grateful to marry into Cindy's family, because you don't just marry the individual, you marry the family. And Joe and Elsie, and Jolene, and Cousin Debbie, all believed in the absolute value and necessity of the arts. Supported it wholeheartedly, got involved in it wholeheartedly. It could not have been a better experience than anything I could have imagined. And then, of course, my immediate family. Cindy, Jared, and Beth. And Jared and his family couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately. I could not have done what I have done for 40 plus years without their support. For all of the years of 12 to 15-hour days of summer theater, I would not have survived without their support. Jared broke his first leg, I was in summer theater. Cassie was born, I was in summer theater. Cindy's dad had his first heart attack, I was in summer theater. And then I wasn't for a while. And so I am so grateful and love you guys so much for the support that you have given all those years, the crap you have put up with for all those years. My absolute love to Ben and Beth. Ben is Cassie's husband, and in fact, Ben is the one who works at a golf store down in Fargo. Not Cassie doesn't have 2 jobs. And Beth is raising 3 wonderful grandchildren. And so I'm so grateful for my immediate family and all that they've done for me and all that they have put up with, because without them, none of this certainly would have ever been possible. I do want to thank Rick Hedberg, Dan Langamo, Cheryl Nielsen, Peg Morris, and all of those folks who have been working so hard in helping to get the construction going and taking place up at the amphitheater. It is so necessary. The building is falling down around you. The bathrooms are in terrible shape. Everything is in terrible shape. And without their push, without their support, it just, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say thank you more than that. And I hope you all will continue to support it, because after all, it was the M500 Club, I think, back in the late 60s that helped pay for that initially, and then getting the National Guard on board to do the hills so that they could become alive. I saw the news. And of course, people like Carolyn Elshire, who has also received this achievement, and Tom Turner. Plays are about human condition. And every day, I got to get up and go to a place and read plays and read about playwrights and study the history of American theater and how the impact of theater, what the impact was in the American Constitution, etc., and learn about stuff. And it couldn't get any better than that. I mean, every day I was able to read a play, at least one. And then I was able to go into a classroom, and we were able to sit down and talk about those things. And talk about what does this mean to you right now at this time? And boy, I had some great students through the years. Oh my gosh. I mean, it was like every time somebody, a set graduated, a new set showed up. I mean, I came in the mid-70s, and I had the Monaghan sisters, and Kevin Brown, and Von Kessler, and I mean, we were doing shows like Waiting for Godot. Now, Waiting for Godot is the great depressive play about the inability to survive this cyclical world that we live in. Everything what goes around comes around, and you never get out of that. But we were able to do that. Now here I am, a young punk, kids working with students that were almost my age, and we were able to talk about those wonderful things. And I had those great students who became great individuals, great teachers. Lois Lehner was another one. A few years after that, I had a batch come in from Delac, Burlington. Holy cow, Steve Files, there must have been something in the water out there for a while. But Chad was a part of that batch. There were the Nett brothers, Dave and Chris, and Chad and Shanda Schneidley, and the Gross brothers, Jeremy and Jason Gross. And it just went on, and every one of them was a 4.0 student. It was just unbelievable. And they helped me be a better teacher. And so this, as Les said, is not about me. It's about these people. And it wasn't just from Delac, Burlington, from Glenburn, Eric Roberge. I don't know if anybody ever knew that name, but my God, he made me so mad every time I would be teaching in class in Shakespeare Lit. He would never show up except to take the test, and he would always get an A. I don't know how I did it. Because I would put things on the test that he should not have known, and yet he knew it. It was just a second language to him. Brett Olson is another one from Glenburn. Heather Schneidley. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And theater here at Minot State became truly an academic program, I think. And I am so grateful for that because of those students. It wasn't just about acting. It wasn't just about doing great shows or having wonderful musicals or any of that. It was about being academic. As a matter of fact, two of the people in the Academic Hall of Fame, and I don't know how many there are in the Academic Hall of Fame, but two of them are theater majors. At one point, I actually kind of sat down and I just started to write down names of students who had gone on for an advanced degree. And in those years, there were somewhere of 60 or 70 theater students that had gone on to graduate programs. And not just the MA, but in MFAs, PhDs, in every field of study, whether it was props design, scene design, acting, directing, you name it. So I could not be more proud to accept this with them in mind. Chris Stroshein is another Delac, Burlington kid that just kind of showed up one day, and he can do anything. Every time I needed something done, he would do it. Fortunately, he graduated from Minot State with a theater degree, took a couple years off, came back, and now is teaching English in Steve Files' old position out at DLU. So hopefully there will be a connection there once more. I've had many great honors. Towards the end of my career, I was given the honor of being a full professor. Not something that I really thought I would ever do or anything like that. But it was truly an honor when that was bestowed on me. Not so much for what I had done, but for all of the kind words that all of my colleagues across this campus and other NDUS campuses. And I was speechless then, as I am not right now. I haven't heard the music, so I still must have a couple more minutes to go. But one final thought. Josh, thank you. It's got to be a felt thing. Josh, I'm the person who gave you your last grade here at Mine State University. Yeah. It was an independent study class. And I still have your final project. So, talk to Rick about that summer theater project. And as Chad said, peace and love.
Please welcome Tim Francis to the podium to introduce our next Golden Awards recipient for the evening.
All right, thank you. No, I'm not timing myself. I'm high tech with notes. Save some paper. So it's been a pretty fun and inspiring night so far. I want to thank the Mine State Alumni Association for doing this, doing the Golden Awards and giving us a chance to recognize the positive influence that all the people have had. I'm grateful for the opportunity to introduce one of those, a good friend of mine, Arnie. He's a leader, a coach, a friend, and always there to help others succeed. It was cross country and track, also under Wiley, about a decade before you, that brought us together, and we've been friends ever since. You still inspire me today. One thing I appreciate about Arnie is the way he sees the big picture and showing that we need to be a decent human being above all else, no matter what title we pick, whether we're a coach, an athlete, a boss, whatever our profession or title, it's more important to be a human being, treat people with respect, and just make things better. So with that, it's my honor to introduce someone who has helped me be a better person, someone who never quits, my friend Arnie Street.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Alumni Association, for this honor. Earlier this week, my wife said, Arnold, I think you need to go to the VA to get new hearing aids. I said, no, honey, I'm okay. I'm not hungry right now. And she said again, I think you need to go to the VA and get new hearing aids. And I said, no, I'm full, honey. I'm okay. Then I was talking to Rick Hedberg, and I said, Rick, I think, first I was so impressed that I was like the finale. Then he told me and broke my heart and said, no, it's because your name starts with an S, and you're at the end of the order in the alphabet. I said, okay, well, I'm glad I still have those 35 minutes. He says, no, you have 3 to 5 minutes. So, what I found very interesting is once the announcement went out, there were so many people that just asked me, says, what is it about Minot State University graduates? Why are they so involved with the community? And I think, Mike, you hit it right on the head. Culture. Right? When you think about Wiley Wilson, that was a servant leader. He was a servant leader. It was all about, I wasn't a Hall of Famer like Tim Francis, he and I went to Amsterdam together, we ran a marathon. He was up there with the Kenyans, I was back with the beer drinkers. But it was all about that servant leadership piece. Jessica, everything that you said about your dad was true. I'm not going to say how many decades ago, okay, but just a few decades ago, my dad and mom moved up to Miami Air Force Base. We moved from Okinawa, Japan. Ninth grader, didn't know anybody, didn't know Tim, that was later on. And lo and behold, one of our first teachers, my first teacher was Mr. Anderson. Not the Mr. Anderson from Matrix, right? It was Mr. Anderson, Les Anderson. And it was awesome because I can remember being a freshman, you know, been around the world and so forth, going to Minot. And really, when we were in Okinawa, I was like, Dad, where's Minot, North Dakota? Is that like in Canada? No, it's by Canada. But Mr. Anderson, you were kind, generous, sweet, and I'm very thankful that our paths crossed. And it was one of those things where I told him earlier, I said, I wish I would have told him that earlier because I've come back for some Minot State events in the past, and I've seen it, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that I appreciated that time where you took this ninth grader who was a little bit afraid, you know, because it's kind of intimidating when you move to a new location, you don't know anybody. And he welcomed us with open arms. It was all about respect, like Tim talked about. He was so respectful for a bunch of kids that were probably, what, 14, 15 years old? It was all about respect and so forth. The other thing that about Mr. Anderson, for those that actually had him, he was a sharp dresser. Was he or was he not? He still is, right? He's still... I can believe that, yeah, okay. So thank you, Mr. Anderson. Kevin Neuharth. I didn't know until tonight that he loved me. He was cussing and swearing, and I was in the Army at that time, jumped out of Princeton airplanes with like F-bomb this and F-bomb that, and I'm going, oh man, I am in trouble. And the reason I took that class, kind of like Greg, you know, I was probably like that I didn't realize that I had a double D either, but what was interesting about that is when I took that class, you know, and I was a straight A student, okay, up until about the 4th grade, and then all of a sudden the A's started disappearing, okay, and then when I went to Minot State, I took this class from Mr. Neuharth. I looked back in the old days, okay, at the catalog, and I said, stage design. That has got to be one of the easiest classes that you can take. That's great. I'm thinking to myself, so I am going to get an A. I never worked so hard for that B in my entire life. When I was done, I thought I could have been an architect. So Kevin, like I said, I'm so glad. And I feel really honored to be in that class with Greg that I'm, like I said, a double D. Dr. Lebeau, okay. This is why, for me, it's really an honor. I know the classman club of 2021. Josh, your dad, Larry, you probably don't know this, but your dad was very kind to us, Jim Turner, Andy Plank, myself, at Minot Air Force Base. He would take us from the youth center and drive us all over to the ball field so we didn't have to walk. It was probably like 2.5 miles. And I still remember that to this day. Now, Dr. Lebeau. My wife and I, Sigrid, my bride, my beautiful bride, and one of the reasons why I'm up here, we serve on one of his committees. It's the PVAC, there we go, yeah. The Patient Family Advisory Council. And I can remember my friend Craig Landler, who Mike replaced, great guy. And I remember Eileen, who was on the PFAC, and people are trying to figure out, okay, who's this Dr. Lebeau? We know he's like a nephrologist. Now, what the thunder is that? But what she said is this man, this young man, because she was a little older, is all about serving people. And I also had the opportunity to work with Mike in regards to, we're both on the YMCA board. And he's all about serving people. It's not about him. He's made a lot of personal sacrifices. He didn't brag, but he's actually getting a major promotion within the Sanford organization and moving up to that next position. And the wily stories I heard about that at one of the YMCA board meetings, and I said, really? I said, I think Wally recruited half his athletes that way. And what I remember is, for those that were around that time, and I know Tim does, it wasn't a station wagon. He had a station wagon, because that was like 10 years later. He used to drive this old red truck. It was like, I don't know, Tim, it was that old red, I don't know if it was a Ford or a Chevy, and then he would have those cigarettes, right? But he was like a second dad. But yeah, Dr. Lebeau, Mike has a great reputation within the Bismarck Mandan community, and I know that he'll do great things again down at the headquarters. I'd also like to thank all my classmates, teammates. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on and on, but I won't. Okay. But there are some folks that I do want to thank by name, and a lot of you will know these individuals, and you'll know why. Wiley Wilson, like I said, servant leader. Gary Leslie, he was the one that introduced me to snowboarding and skiing, okay. I think he thought that this introduction to skiing, when he took us up to Botno, that we were training for the Olympics. Okay, I don't know why we were jumping up and doing plyometrics and weightlifting when we only went up to Botno one time. One time, and it wasn't for me around, it was like 50 below zero. We were like on the hill, okay, you get your credit, let's go back to Mina. Herb Parker, what a phenomenal individual. I remember getting out of the Army the first time before I went back in, and got out of the Army, said, Arnie, you know, you're married, you can stay in Pioneer Hall. Just a sweet individual, another servant leader. Rod Romine, I didn't know professionally, but Tim and I, many track meets, Rod was always the starter at the track meets. Great man, great individual. Dean Bachmeyer, the wrestling coach, right? Dean Bachmeyer. I remember seeing Dean like when he's 65, I'm getting close to 65, 7 years old, qualifying for the Boston Marathon year after year after year. And when I think of these names, I smile, my heart just pumps with passion and support and love for those individuals because of the positive influence they had on me, Tim, and other athletes and non-athletes around the campus. Wes Luther, I think someone mentioned Wes. So true, so true. Didn't really say a lot, but when he did, he was like, yeah, Putnam, you listen. Right? And he was firm. Rick Hedberg. You know, Rick, great job getting us to the D2 level, right? I know you put a lot of effort. I know a lot of the folks in this room did. Very impressive accomplishment, and we appreciate those folks. Now, some of the professors, okay. And Kevin knows Paula Lindecuber, right? I was fortunate enough not to have Kevin Neuharth for speech, because I probably would have failed. But with Paula, the lesson I learned from Paula, she said, this is probably one of the most important classes that you will ever take. Public speaking. And she was so right. You know, I've always struggled with public speaking. I've always been an introvert. My bride, she's the extrovert, I'm the introvert. But it was so true that public speaking, I learned that from Paula. She was a great communicator. Adam Ballman, Mr. Ballman. We would sit in the poli sci, wherever that building is over there, I don't remember what it was, but we would sit there and argue about politics all around the world. You know, being in the Army for 20 years, travel all over the world and saw a whole bunch of different things. And I remember in class, and it was way back then, and he pointed on the map, and he said, Arnie, this is going to be the hot spot in the future. This is where wars are going to happen. I'm like, yeah, right. And he was pointing to the Middle East. He was prolific. He knew exactly what was, and then he explained all the reasons why. Science, you know, we have 3 kids, all in science. I want to thank Dr. O.P. Maddock, Dr. Stephen Lowe, Matt, Dr. Bob Holman. They were gracious this year, their deep knowledge of the sciences with me, and actually transitioned to my kids as well. I'm kind of a science, but not a science person. I'm now in finance for some reason. Dad, you came up from Colorado. My dad is like the luckiest man in the world. My mom, Nagasaki bomb survivor, passed away December 31st, 2014. I don't remember the date. But he's been married twice, and Paul and his bride is here. He is like the luckiest man in the world, other than me, because I'm pretty happy with my bride. I'm very fortunate. Is that okay to me? Yeah, she says, good job! Woo! Okay. So, Paula, thanks for being there with my dad and being there for my dad. You're a great addition to the family. Like I said, he's very, very lucky, and I learned a lot of lessons from my dad. Tim, my best friend for 40 years, okay, I don't know, years ago, we went to Amsterdam, he just called up and said, hey, you want to go to Amsterdam? I'm like, well, no, I've been there before. Well, how about running a marathon? Okay, sure, so we went, right? And then I did this thing called the Ultra, I don't remember the details, and I said, Tim, I want to do this race. And he didn't even ask, he said, sure. So we went to Canada and we did that, and it was awesome, you know. Without any hesitation, good times, bad times, he's always been there for me.
always very, very fortunate. My daughter Courtney isn't able to be here. Actually, Dr. Lebeau, thank you for being a physician. My daughter graduated in 2010. She's a physician. And I can't thank all the medical professionals enough for fighting COVID. The battle continues. I see it firsthand. She's wanted to be a physician since she was in the 6th grade. The fatigue is there. Like I said, I can't thank the physicians or thank the medical professionals enough. To my bride, Sigrid, you are my soulmate, and you are why I'm up here today. Major health issues in 2009. Major health issues in 2009. I already said 2009. 2008 and 2009 for 2 years. Yeah, I can't count either. Okay. But this is the reason I'm here. She's a serial entrepreneur. She's an MSU graduate. She's actually up here tonight. She's running the North Dakota. She's running the North Dakota Yoga Conference convention down in Minot. That's secret, you know.
It's in Bismarck.
Oh, where did I say?
It's in Bismarck.
Oh, it's in Bismarck. Okay, where did I say though? Minot. Okay, no, it's in Bismarck. Okay. I stand corrected. Okay. And like I said, thank you to the Alumni Association for all the advisors, the coaches, and so forth. And then I think the takeaway that I have from what I learned at Minot State from Mr. Anderson and others is, what's your leadership philosophy? And I do a lot of presentations, and it's all about how do you lead, why do you lead, and so that's one of the things I teach folks is what's your leadership philosophy? The second thing is what playbook are you running off? And I will pick on Dr. Lebeau. He's a value-based leader. That's his playbook. He's a servant leader, like Mr. Anderson, like Kevin Neuharth. Great people. The third thing I always talk about is what's your purpose? Why do you do this? What's your legacy going to be? And I think that's why I think Minot State has such a phenomenal culture. I think of all the folks that work for Minot State, that work with the young people that come here to learn, to better themselves, to prepare themselves for the future, there's no greater purpose. There's no greater cause. And so for all the educators, it's like they do such a phenomenal job. I think that our educators are doing a great job. I also think that America is in good hands with the folks that are coming up. And then finally, I want to thank Dr. Shirley for this evening. Rick, thank you very much. It sounds like you were asked to collect some more money later or earlier when you were out in the hallway. Some more work for you, right? I think Dr. Shirley was talking about you, but you weren't there, and I said, Dr. Shirley's now talking about you. Okay? And then for the staff, I don't remember all the names. I know it's kind of difficult to corral people for this type of event in regards to the awardees. I don't know all their names, Dr. Shirley or Rick, but they did a phenomenal job. They were on spot, on time. Sometimes, I know myself, I'm a little slow, but they kept us in the guardrails, and so I really appreciate all the work that they did, and the chef and so forth. So with that, it's great to be a Beaver. Always will be a Beaver, and have a great night.
And at this time, I would like to introduce Rochelle Feldner, who will introduce our Young Alumni Achievement Award recipient for 2021.
Good evening. As a former Minot Public School music educator for 36 years, I am well aware of the countless hours of hard work and preparation it takes to reach this level. And that is why I am so very proud to have been asked to introduce Evan Meiers tonight. I first met Evan in 2010 when I was judging a District 9 music contest in Stanley, where Evan was the manager. I judged the percussion for that event and was in awe of how he was able to mold a young group of musicians, many with little or no band experience. And he molded them into an award-winning soloists and ensemble players. From the first time I met Evan, it was evident that he was tirelessly dedicated to his students. In later years, I learned that Evan was not only their band director, but he held many hats. He was a basketball coach, a bus driver. He coordinated music for the cheerleaders and organized all the band trips for the Stanley High School Band. And one of these was playing for the Minnesota Vikings basketball game. I'm sorry, Timberwolves basketball game. Wrong sport. What makes this so special is that this was all happening during the Bakken oil boom and a huge influx of students into the Stanley High School. Because the band room was the biggest room in the high school, many of the new students were persuaded into being in band. But Evan welcomed every student into the band family at Stanley High School, no matter what their musical background was or their experience level. I personally observed this commitment to success and witnessed the growth of his students' musicianship while judging percussion and concert band events over the years, culminating in 2014 with the Stanley High School Band having the honor of being chosen as the North Dakota Governor's Band. In the following years, Evan and I became close friends, meeting at numerous music activities, regional and state music meetings, and band workshops. Among the highlights was in the summer of 2017, when Evan and I were invited by Northern Ambassadors of Music to be among the chaperones for a 23-day trip to 7 countries in Europe for more than 380 musicians from North Dakota and Montana. Needless to say, there were many long bus trips and hours of preparation for the students' concerts, and Evan and his beautiful wife, Evan, were always up to the task. Evan and his beautiful wife, Erin. Although it was while traveling through the mountains in the Swiss Alps and the Austrian Alps that I did learn one of Evan's weaknesses. Erin always had a supply of Dramamine close by and handy whenever our tour bus was about to travel the narrow mountain roadways. In the fall of 2018, Evan took a leap of faith and jumped from Stanley High School to Miami Public Schools as a Southside Elementary band director, teaching beginning band and the 6th grade band director at Jim Hill Middle School. In 2019, Evan resurrected the Magi Drumline, which has since become one of the most popular groups in the district and has set out a standard of excellence as they perform at numerous events in and around the Minot area. And if you watched the news last night, they did a send-off for the Minot High School soccer team to the state tournament. So, yay, Magi Drumline. In 2020, Evan became the band director at Minot High School. In his spare time, Evan helps run his family farm west of Berthold, and he and his wife Erin raised 3 beautiful young daughters who apparently love pillow fights. As if he does not already have enough on his plate, Evan has earned a master's degree in music from UND and is currently working on a conducting master's degree in conducting from Northern State University in Aberdeen, South Dakota. I am proud to say that I am a great friend and a mentor of Evan's. He is a great educator, a terrific band director, and even a better person. Ladies and gentlemen, the Young Alumni Achievement Award winner, Evan Meiers.
I was once taught to be a successful speaker was also to have a prop. This is merely only to keep your attention for the next 3 to 5 minutes. Just a little background about me. I was a young farmer from Ross, North Dakota. Grew up in Stanley High School, the Stanley area. My dad was a farmer. Also did some miscellaneous jobs. My mom worked a ton. Very hard-working family, just like everybody's talked about up here. I learned my hard work, good values from my parents. I just have to thank them so much that they gave that to me. I was a percussionist, I was a drummer, I could play at pep band games, I could have a ton of fun with my students. I could not dribble a basketball. I could not hit anybody on the football field because my mom wouldn't let me. But that's okay, and I could not run any marathons. Beer drinkers in the back, I don't think so. We stay at home. Went from Stanley High School, graduated Stanley High School in 2003, went to Concordia College, which I call Can't Afford It Yet. I went there for 2 years and could not afford it anymore. I'm like, I need to find a new home. And with welcome arms, MSU was the landing spot. I remember exactly when I made the decision and went, I can't be here anymore. This isn't the place for me. I'm a farm kid. This is not made for a farm kid. I need to be back with my people. And I come back to MSU with open arms, and there are some people that I just have to mention really quick that made that happen. And one of them is Joe Olmy. And some of you know Mr. Olmy very well. And he's a wonderful human being, international music camp. He was supposed to be here tonight, but he couldn't be here tonight. But he looked at me when I was a junior in high school and said, "You're gonna be a band director." And I said, okay, nobody's told me what I should be. So I'll go do that. Nobody said be a financial planner. Or be an actor. Be a band director. He'll come back later in the story. So I get to MSU with wide open arms. I'm having a great time, and I realize that I'm a butthole at Alumni State University. I know everything. I went to Concordia. I went to music camp. I know all this stuff. What can you teach me? I just need the degree. And then came Dr. Anderson, who is now the head of the music department. He sat me down many times and said, stop, slow down, think about what you're doing. And I go, no way, Dr. Anderson, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab the world by the tail. I got everything figured out already. Stop, slow down, think about what you're doing. He treated me with a level of respect. I came in as a hothead musician. I thought I knew everything. He treated me on the same level. And I just have to thank him and for everything. It's been really cool to see him grow in his profession and me grow in mine. And he's now the head of the music department, and I wave my arms around, and somehow music happens. Avis Whiteley is the next person I need. She's mom number 2. She couldn't make it tonight because her symphony rehearsal. Dr. Anderson's skipping out right now. Avis Whiteley one time threw a shoe at me. And I deserved it. As educators, I promise I don't throw a shoe at kids anymore, but sometimes it needs to happen. She threw a shoe at me and I needed it. She also told me to look at things from a different angle. And now, just the other day, my daughter was throwing a screaming fit, throwing her stuffed animals all around, just mad at the world for something, and I said, hey, look at it from a different angle. And I went, Avis. And my daughter went, what's an angle? I have to give a little success story to Mr. Hedberg. Being the portly musician at Meiers State University, I was not an athletic guy, but him and I connected on a different level. It was an understanding that students at MSU have the ability to do many things, to play at athletic events, to support one of each other. And that really gave me the success at Stanley, at what we're doing now. We're supporting athletics, we're supporting other groups in the community. We're there for everybody through music. And then guess what? The football team is going to be at our concert. The swimming team is going to be at our concert. We're making strides with lifting others up through music. And that's my mantra. I'm there for everybody. Just like that, what'd you say, Rochelle, the soccer send-off last night? I got many texts from soccer parents. It's just a wonderful thing that you taught me through athletics, even though I'm fat. Sorry. I'm way more professional in the classroom. Sandy Star, I promise. Way more professional in the class. Right, Leslie? Okay, thank you. I got to give a shout out to Rochelle Feldner, who introduced me. She taught me how to take leaps, how to get out of my comfort zone, how to go hey, you're comfortable at Stanley, you got a 220-piece band, it's going awesome. Come over here and teach hot cross buns every week. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. Not teaching hot cross buns every week, but to follow her in her footsteps. She's such a wonderful leader, such a wonderful mentor, and is a wonderful asset to this university and this town. I have to give a thank to Leslie Barney. Over there, not you, Chuck. Sit down. To Leslie, she was my coworker for the last 3 years. She saw me fail so many times, but she was there for me. She brought me up. She was there to pick me up and teach these kids how to play an F sharp or a B flat the correct way and not just, ah! She really gave me scope and some confidence. I have to give a quick thank you to my mom and dad for always being there, and then my wife, Lignite guy, who was just sorry, there. I taught Lignite for a year. I lived up there. I had a fridge and an air mattress in my office in Lignite. I do the same thing now. I'm not around as much as I should be. I need to be at home with my girls. And my wife is there. When I get home at 9 o'clock, the kids are in bed, and she's just like, oh, yay, how was your day? Let me hear all about the stuff that I know went on already, but I'll hear it again. She's always been my rock. She's always been there. And if anybody needs any tax planning, Mellon Jones and Associates. So the last thing I got tonight is what you've all been waiting for, is to talk about the beaver right here. About 4 years ago, Teresa Teresa L. and Dr. Shirley and Rick Hedberg showed up in my classroom in Stanley. And they gave me this beaver. And they said, hey, thanks for being a beaver. And that didn't mean anything at that time. That didn't mean anything to my students who saw these people come into my classroom and say, we support this guy. We like this guy. You guys should like this guy. Please like this guy. This beaver disappeared with a senior prank that happened that year. Because I put it on top of my projector for everybody to see that walked in. I was proud to be a beaver, and everybody saw it. Well, the senior prank was to steal Mr. Meiers' beaver. And just about a year and a half ago, I'm sitting in my basement. All of a sudden, I get a call at 11 o'clock at night from a student who's in college and says, hey, I'm at Meiers State University. I stole your beaver. And I said, where are you right now? He said, I'm actually coming up your driveway right now. He sat down and talked to me a little bit about his experience here in the music department, experience about how it's shaping him and molding him, and he goes, I now know how important that thing was to you. And even though I may have gotten a degree from the Fighting Hawks, and I'm getting a degree now from the Northern State Wolves, damn right I'll always be a beaver. Thank you.
What a wonderful evening. On behalf of the MSU Alumni Association of Meiers State University, I would like to congratulate and thank this year's recipients for a job well done. And also for the continued support of our university. A special thanks to all of our presenters for their wonderful introductions for the honorees. Thank you to the family and friends who were able to spend this evening with us to share in these prestigious awards. Again, a special thank you to our food service staff for preparing a wonderful meal. And like a couple of other people who have done, I would also like to acknowledge and thank those involved behind the scenes at the advancement and alumni offices. You guys are rock stars. Thank you so much. Dr. Shirley, again, thank you for your continued support of the Alumni Association, Meiers State University. Thank you to all that attended this evening to honor our Young Alumni Award winners and our Golden Award winners. And please take some time on the way out into the hallway to stop and view the permanent plaque honoring all of our Golden Award winner recipients since its inception back in 1967. That plaque is located on the wall just outside this room. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful evening. Go Beavers!